would have thought when you learn about bit mass in primary school, the indices could be so complicated? So we are looking into fractional and negative indices together. So the learning objectives of this lesson is to understand the concept of fractional indices and the relationship to roots. And then we also need to learn about how to simplify expressions with fractional and negative indices. Now, there are some basic things you need to know about the difference between a fractional and a negative index. And by understanding them, you learn how to deal with them as well. So, fractional index, it means when you have a fraction in a power, it means the nth root. So, for example, if you have 1 over 2, the 2 means a square root. A 3 means a cube root. Note, the numerator is 1 in here. So, 1/2 means square root, 1/3 means cube root. Now, what about if you have, let's say, 3 to the power of 2? If you have 3 over 2. When you have 3 over 2, it means a half times 3. So a half means square root, and times 3 means the power of 3. So multiplying, do the same thing. When dividing, you can see a half minus a third, we subtract the power. 1/6 means sixth root. When you have a power of a power, you multiply them. So everything sort of works the same when you have a negative power or fractional power. Now, when it comes to negative power, it means flip it. Now, the negative in the power does not mean the negative in the front. It's a different thing. What I'm trying to say is -4 is not the same as 4 to the power of -1. Okay, the negative in the power has nothing to do with the sign or the number or the term itself. So negative power means a to the power of -2 means flip it. So if you think about a to the power of -2 is same as a to the power of -2 over 1, means you flip it. So to do the negative power, you flip the fraction. So it'll be 1 over a squared. That's how you get rid of the negative in the index. A to the power of -5 will be 1 over a to the power of -5. If you multiply two terms with negative power, do the same thing. You add them up. So -2 plus -3 is -5. Again, -5 means you flip the term. A to the power of -2 divided by a to the power of -3. Same rule applies, but this time it's minus because dividing. When you have power of a power, again, power of -3 to the power of -2. So -3 times -2 is a to the power of 6. A to the power of 6 is a positive term, positive power, so you don't have to do anything with it. Here's a little tip from me. Deal with the negative first if there's negative, just like life. When there's negative, deal with the negative emotions first, and then everything becomes positive, right? As I've said, when you learn to deal with the negatives first. So here, the first example is about dealing with negative power. Example, work out the following without a calculator. So A, 3 to the power of -1. I can rewrite 3 to the power of -1 as over 1. So whenever negative power means I flip the whole thing. So it'll be 1 over 3 to the power of 1, which is the same as 3, 1 over 3. Part B, 3/4 to the power of -1. We look at the negative. So negative power means flip the fraction. So 3 to the power of 3 over 4 becomes 4 over 3 to the power of 1. Now note, when I flip the fraction, the negative in the power disappears. So to the power of 1 is the same as itself, so 4 over 3. C, it's a mixed number, so we can change it in proper first. 4 times 2. So if you don't remember how to change it in proper, what do you do? Times add, since it's a grade 6 topic, you should know how to change it in proper. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11, so it'll be 11 to the power of 4. 11 over 4 to the power of -2. To deal with the negative in a power, we flip the fraction, so it becomes 4 over 11 to the power of 2. 2 means square it, so 4 squared is 8. Nope, 4 squared is 16. A very common mistake students usually make when they have a squared, they naturally sometimes just, sometimes we do brainlessly, just times it together. But no, 11 squared is 121. D. Now, what about a decimal? Now, decimal, you can't flip it. Well, technically you can't, so you have to change the fraction first. So 0.4 is the same as 4 over 10. So 0.4 to the power of -3, we can rewrite as 4 over 10 to the power of -3. You can simplify if you want to, which is the same as 2 over 5 to the power of -3. Negative means flip the fraction. So 5 over 2 to the power of 3. Power of 3 means cube it. So 5 cube is 125, 2 cube is 8. Now it's quite, speaking of which, it's quite useful to remember some cube numbers up to 6 or 7. So 1 cube we know is 1, 2 cube is 8, 3 cube is 27, 4 cube is 64, 5 cube is 125, 6 cube is 216, 7 cube is a funny number that you can sort of remember because it's symmetrical. That's why I go up to 7 cube, 343. But if you really want to insist, go to 8 cube, that's fine. 8 cube will be 512. 9 cube, do you know what it is? I don't know. Right, anyway. So E. Right, question E then. Well, you have 7 to the power of minus 2 to the power of minus 1. So before we deal with the negative power, we can see a power of power. So do simplify the powers first before you do any final alterations on the negatives. So power of minus 2 times power of minus 1 is same as 7 to the power of positive 2, because minus 2 times minus 1. So here we're using this rule in here. Is the same as multiplying power. So minus 2 times minus 1 is 2. 7 to the power of 2 is 49. So I have dealt with my negative indices. It's your turn to learn how to deal with your negative, not emotions, indices. So have a go, practice question 1, pause the video, have a go. When you're ready for the answer, you can press play. Here are the answers. Next, we now look into fractional power. So example, evaluate. If you know what evaluate means work up the numerical solution or numerical answer to the following question. So evaluate means work up the numerical answer without a calculator, of course, because if there's a calculator, why do we have to learn all of these, right? Oh, you'll be thinking, why do we have to learn all of this? It's because when we have to deal with algebra, you can't do algebra without knowing the basic of power to manipulate them. So question A, 36 to the power of a half. So let's recall what's fractional power again. Fractional power means 1 over n means nth root. Okay, so in here, we're going to learn how to deal with the nth root. So 36 to the power of a half, oops, is the same as square root of 36, which is 6. Part B. Not sure if you actually wonder, hang on a minute, when you square root, do you not have plus or minus? Well, technically, yes, but because the square root in here is already included in 36, so by default, the question was asking for the positive answer to the square root. It was not, so the square root was already done it there for you. So if the question was like x squared equals 36, to find x, now the next step is to do square root of 36. So if I have to do the action of square rooting 36, then in here I will plus and minus. But because a half, it means there is already square rooted already. So the question has already square rooted for you, so therefore it's positive. In a nutshell, what it means is when do you include plus and minus? If you have to do the action of square rooting from the previous step, then yes, then you have to include the plus and minus. But if it is given to you already, then you don't have to do it. So question B, 16 over 25 to the power of a half. So it means square root of 16 over 25. So it means you're square rooting numerator and denominator. So it'll be 4/5. Question C. Now you can see negative 1 over 27. 1 over 3 means cube rooting. So we're cube rooting of negative 1 over 27. But hang on a minute, can you not cube root negative number? Does it not give you a maths error? No, it doesn't. You only get maths error when you square root any negative number, or if you do any even root of a negative number. For example, you can't do fourth root of negative 1, for example. If you want to know more, this is called complex number. If you do A-level further maths, you'll learn about it. Indeed, it's actually the first chapter in the further maths A-level content. So cube root of negative 1 over 27 is, so cube rooting of 1 is just negative 1, because negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 is 1, 1, 1, 1, negative, negative, positive, negative, negative. Cube root of 27 is 3, because 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So it's negative a third. D. Now, we have 64 to the power of 2/3. So you've got two ways to write this, okay? 64 to the power of 2 over 3. One, you can do cube root of 64 and then squared, Or you can do 64 squared and then you cube root. Now, clever person like you, maybe you can tell me which way you would prefer if you have to do it without calculator. If you're unsure, try work it out. You can pause the video, try work it out which one would be cleverer to do. The answer will be the first one. Why? Because if you cube root a number, it will make the number smaller. When you make the number smaller and then squared, it's much easier to do than to square the number 64. It's not undoable, but imagine you have to cube root. Now, what does cube root mean? Cube root means you have to think of a number that multiply itself and itself and itself again. Cube root is it's not something you can do with on your head if you don't know if the number is not a cube number. For example, if I ask you what's the cube root of 30? Now, you won't be able to work it out because without a calculator, you don't know what number times self is 30. So any number that is not a cube number is quite impossible to do cube root or fifth root or fourth root or even square root. So in here, we're going to choose cube root first, deal with the denominator. So cube root of 64, we know is 4. 4 squared is 16. Last but not least, we have E. So question E, 4/9 to the power of 3 over 2. Now this time we've learned that the power 3 in the numerator means to the power of 3. A half means square root. So here we're going to square root 4 over 9 and then cubed it. Square root of 4 over 9, square root of 4 is 2, square root of 9 is 3, 2/3 cubed, 2 cubed is 6, nope, is 8, 3 cubed is 27. So here comes the practice question 2. Pause the video, have a go at the question. When you're ready for the answer, you can press play. Here comes the answers. In particular, question D, 5 over 4. Now, when you're given any fractional indices to work with numerical answers, those numbers must be whole numbers, and usually they'll be quite small. For example, 4th root of 16. Now, numbers usually will play around with numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, or maximum 5 usually. So we know 2 to the power 4 is 16 because the only way you can multiply itself 4 times to get to 16, the number must be pretty small. So it's 2. So 4th root of 16 is 2. 2 to the power 5 is 32. In this following example, we're going to mix them up, negative and fractional indices or power. Do you remember what I said about a tip? When you see a negative and fractional power, anything to do with negative, deal with your negatives first. Okay? And then we look at the fractional. So deal with the negative first. In question A, 16 to the power of negative 3 over 4. What does negative means again? Negative means you flip the whole thing by, flip the power. Flip power. It means flip the whole number. So, for example, a 16 to the power of negative 3 over 4 is the same as 1 over 16 to the power of 3 over 4. Now that we can deal with, so everything that we do with the fractional power is in the denominator. So power 4 means 4th root of 16 and then cubed it. So 4th root of 16 we just did in the previous practice is 2. 2 cubed is 8. So the answer is 1/8. B. Negative 1 over 1,000 to the power of negative 2 over 3. We don't care about the negative in front of the 1 over 1,000. All we care is that little minus in the power. Flip the fraction first, so it'll be 1,000 over minus 1 to the power of negative 2 over 3. Now, 1,000 over negative 1 is the same as negative 1,000 to the power of 2, negative 2, not negative anymore. Sorry, I don't mean to put a negative in there. There should be no negative, because we've dealt with it. So 2 over 3. So it means we're going to cube root of negative 1,000 and then square it. So cube root of 1,000 is 10 because 10 cubed is 1,000. So it'll be negative 10 in a bracket squared. Now when we do negative 10 squared, it becomes a positive 100. So everything is dealt inside the bracket. And that's why bit mass B comes before the I. C. Now we have 2 times in here, 27 to the power of negative 1/3 and 9 to the power of 3 over 2. Let's do it one by one. So first of all, let's deal with the negative power in the 27. So it means 1 over 27 to the power of a third. A third means cube root, so cube root of 27 is 3, so it's a third. Next, 9 to the power of 3 over 2 is the same as square root of 9 and then cubed it. Square root of 9 is 3, 3 cubed, 3 times 3 times 3, 27. So my final answer, and you multiply them together, so 1/3 times 27, which is same as 9. D. 4/5 of, we do the same thing, 4 over 25 to the power of negative 3 over 2. Let's deal with it one by one first. Negative power means we flip the fraction, 25 over 4 to the power of 3 over 2. So 3 over 2 means square root of 25 over 4, and then cubed it. Square root of 25 is 5, square root of 4 we know is 2. 5 over 2 cubed, 125 over 8. Let's start with the next one. A over 27 to the power of 1 over 3. A over 27 to the power of a third. No negative this time, so it's all positive. So power of 3 means cube root of A over 27. So cube root of 8 is 2. Cube root of 27 is 3. So to find my final answer, I need to do 125 over 8 times 2 over 3. Is there anything I can cancel out? Well, sort of. 2 and the 8, divide 8 by 2 is 1 over 4. I don't think there's anything else we can cancel out. So it'll be 125 times 1 in the numerator, which is 125. For denominator, 4 times 3 is 12. If we have to leave it in mixed number, so we're thinking about how many 12 good 125 will be 10, remainder will be 5. So here comes practice question 3. Have a go at the question, and when you're ready for the answer, you can press play. Here comes the answers. So A, the answer is 1/9, B is 27, C, you get 9 for the first bit, and 1 over 64 for the second bit, and then when you multiply them, you get 9 over 64. D, the first bit, 81 over 16 to the power of 3 over 4, you simplify it, you will get 27 over 8, 9 over 25 to the power of negative 3 over 2, do the negative first, flip the fraction, etc. Simplify it, you get 125 over 9. When you then multiply them together, try to cancel down the fractions before you multiply, makes life a lot easier. You can see that doing 3 times 125 is a lot simpler than doing 27 times 125. So you get 375 over 8. If you want to simplify into mixed number, you can, but yeah, I'm going to leave it like this. Last but not least, in this example, we're going to show you how negative and fractional power play with algebra. Now, with algebra terms, you just have to do it one by one. Numbers with numbers, algebra with algebra. With the numbers, we've done a lot in the previous examples. With the power of the negative with the algebra, it's just multiplying the power. So A, 3 pq to the power of minus 4. Now, remember, look, the minus 4 only applies to q. So, however, the minus 2 applies to the whole bracket. So A, 3 to the power of minus 2, first of all, so 3 to the power of minus 2 is the same as 1 over 3 squared, so that will be 9. So what we know is the final answer will be 9. P to the power of minus 2 is just p to the power of minus 2. Q minus 4 times minus 4 times minus 2 is 8. You can leave it like this, or if you don't really like negatives, you said, oh, there's enough negative in my life, and you get rid of negatives, you can rewrite 9q to the power of 8 over p squared, but it's not really required. Part B, 16, let's deal with 16 first. 16 to the power of 3 over 2, so square root of 16 to the power of 3 is 4 cubed is 64. So the final answer will be 64. X squared times, remember power for power, you're going to times the power. So actually, before I write 64, so x squared to the power of 3 over 2 is the same as x squared times 3 over 2 in the power. 2 and a half cancel out, so it'll be x cubed. For the y cubed to the power of 3 over 2, that becomes y to the power of 3 times 3 over 2. It will be same as y to the power of 9 over 2. So my final answer will be 64 x cubed y to the power of 9 over 2. Now, of course, these are the trickier, harder questions compared to previous ones. C. Sorry, I can't alphabets. I should know. A, B, C. D. A, B, C. Right. 1/25. First of all, this time with negative a half. So let's deal with the number, or we call it the coefficient first. 1/25 to the power of negative a half. Negative means flip the fraction. So with 25 to the power of a half. Half means square root. That's 5. You saw I just wrote a 5 in here because I was just calculating in my head. So 5 x to the power of minus 2 to the power of minus a half. We multiply power, becomes positive 1. Y to the power of 8 times power of minus a half. So it'll be y to the power of minus 4. So the final answer for C will be 5x y to the power of minus 4. So for D, I've put on the questions in here so it'll be easier for everyone to read. Surely you have the notes to follow. So D, we have a numerator denominator. So let's best to do it one by one. Let's deal with the numerator first. For numerator, it's 32 to the power of a fifth. A fifth means fifth root. Again, when you do fifth root, the number cannot be very big. So it has to be 2. 2 to the power of 5 is 32. So x to the power of 10 to the power of a fifth means you multiply power. So 10 times a fifth is 2. For the y to the power of minus 5 to the power of a fifth, minus 5 times a fifth is minus 1. So for numerator, 2x to the power of 2, y to the power of minus 1. Let's deal with the denominator. So 4 to the power of 3/2 means square root the 4 first, and then cubed it. 2 cubed is 8. X to the power of 4 to the power of 3/2, multiply the power. So 12 divided by 6 is 12 divided by 2 is 6, so x to the power of 6. And y to the power of 6 to the power of 3/2, again multiply power. 6 times 3 is 18, divided by 2 is 9. So it'll be y to the power of 9. So our denominator would be 8x to the power of 6, y to the power of 9. So therefore, our final answer, we write as a fraction, 2x squared, y to the power of minus 1, over 8x to the power of 6, y to the power of 9. 2 and 8, well, we'll cancel down to 1 and 4. X to the power of 2 and x to the power of 6, there's a winner, which is the denominator with x to the power of 4. So the answer will be 1 over 4, x to the power of 4. Now, for the y, interesting, we've got a minus 1 in there. So now, if you have a minus 1 on top, what it means is, it means y to the power of minus 1 divided by y to the power of 9. Divide means subtract the power. Minus 1 minus 9 is y to the power of minus 10. And negative power means you put it underneath in the denominator. So 4x to the power of 4, y to the power of 10. So here comes the last practice question. Have a go at the question. The questions start from the easier ones to the hardest ones. Have a go. When you're ready for the answers and explanation, you can press play. Here are the answers. Question A, power of a half means square root. Square root of 9 is 3. X to the power of a half means x to the power of half. Question B, 125 to the power of third. A third means cube root, means 5. When you have a power, times them. 9 times a third is 3. For starting from C, I gave you a bit of breakdown. What does term by term do? So if we look at here, 25 to the power of negative a half. Negative means you flip the fraction over root 25. Square root of 25 is 5, so that's a fifth. X to the power of 4 times negative a half. 4 times negative half is negative 2, so hence negative 2 in the power. Same with y to the power of minus 3. If you don't want negatives, had enough of negatives in my life, you can put it in the denominator. D. 4x to the power of 6 to the power of half. Square root of 4 is 2. X to the power of 6 to the power of a half. 6 times a half is 3. 27 to the power of 2 over 3. Well, cube root, 3 squared, 9. Multiply power, 9y to the power of 4. When you multiply them together, you got 18, x cubed, y to the power of 4. E. Cube root of 64 is 4. Cube root is the same as power of a third, so 5 times a third is 5 over 3. Y to the power of minus 2 to the power of a third is y to the power of minus 2 over 3. So put them together. That's your answer. Now for F, you've got big, chunky fraction. Let's trim it down little by little. So numerator, you've got 16 to the power 304 is 8. I'm not going to explain how the fractional power works. If you need to, go back to the previous video. Go back to the previous chunks of the video. X to the power 4 to the power 304 is cubed. So y to the power minus 9. So you get 8x to the power 3, y to the power minus 9. For denominator, same thing. Have a look. You get that. So now we can then put them together in a fraction. So numerator is here, denominator is here. Now we simplify it. 4 and 8 cancel down to 2 in numerator. That shouldn't be an issue. X to the power 3 and x to the power 6. The winner is x to the power 3 in denominator, because 3 take away 6 is negative 3, means 3 denominator. Now for this one, I do want to talk about the power of negative. How do you cancel out? Well, minus 9, we divide by minus 2 means subtract minus 2. Minus minus makes a plus. Minus 9 plus 2 is minus 7. So therefore, power of minus 7 means you put it in underneath in denominator. So you can write like this. Or, again, no negatives. If you don't want a fraction, you can put negative power like this.